Parents of Reddit, what lessons have to try to teach your kids that completely backfired? My daughter used to always unbuckle her seatbelt to reach for things in the car, then not put it back on. We had a minivan at the time, so she was always moving around, saying I just need my backpack, or whatever, and we were always telling her to sit down and get her seatbelt back on. She was maybe 8ish. I was home one night when she burst through the door, crying, blood on her face and clothes, and holding a shirt to her face. Husband close behind, shirtless. Husband looking very sheepish. I asked what in the world happened to them, thinking they had been in an accident. Nope, just a backfired lesson. Husband tried to show her what could happen if she wasn't buckled, and he had to slam on his brakes. He claims he just tapped them, but clearly he didn't plan for her to propel forward, face hitting the seat adjustment thing on the back, bloodying her nose. He took his shirt off to help her stop the blood. Not sure if that helped her learn a lesson, but the car roaming seemed to subside, and she's a 19-year-old driver now who always wears her seatbelt. Taught them to read early. My son could read by age 4, and my daughter by age 3. This leads to some unwanted conversations as they will read things over your shoulder when you aren't expecting it, or even just signs on the road. You're going too fast, Daddy. It says 55 miles per hour and you're going 70. My sister's middle child is a rule enforcer who will chew out her parents when they do something wrong like speed, and will tattle to the other parent if she thinks it's big enough the cop pulled them over. My sister and I were always taught it was wrong to tattle unless someone was doing something that might lead to them or another being hurt. This works better when they're tattling on other children, but if we tattled on someone for something frivolous we were the ones in trouble and not the kid who broke the rule. It really gets tough as they get older too. My kids were early readers, and it became very hard to find books of adequate difficulty for their age that didn't introduce topics they weren't ready for due to their maturity. My parents taught me to call 911 when I saw somebody doing something illegal. I called the cops on the Wiggles movie I was watching when I was 5 because a clown stole a cake. Luckily the 911 operator realized I was young. My story didn't make sense because it was a kids movie. Asked to talk to my mom before sending out cops. When I was 11 I once called the FBI because I felt I had information on a serial killer I didn't. I just thought I did. When the FBI answered I got spooked and hung up. The FBI called back. Keep in mind it's 2 AM in the morning and my mom answered the phone. Hello, this Special Agent Kim with the FBI and I believe your son just called us. That's not a call you want from the FBI at 2 AM about your 11 years old son who last you saw was in his room going to sleep several hours ago. I sat in my room waiting for my parents to call for me. They did. They were not pleased that I had called the FBI without speaking to them first. Taught my young toddler son how to go upstairs. I did not realize that going downstairs is in fact a completely different and far more dangerous skill set. Lucky for us, the kid seems to have finally grasped the finer points of head protection. When our 3-year-old was 2, he learned to go up before he learned to go down. He just laid flat on his stomach, feet pointing down the stairs, reverse Superman style, and just slid. It worked. BRB, I gotta go try this. RIP my ribs though. My friend did this as well, but head first down the stairs. She fractured some of the cartilage in the middle of her chest. She was 24 at the time. Yeah, as soon as my kids learned to go upstairs, climb on chairs or couch, whatever, they immediately were forced to learn how to turn around and go backwards down the same thing. I told him no food downstairs. He had to eat at the table if he wanted to, and not his playroom. When the second kid came I would bring down his bottle and snacks so he could eat solid foods that helped his teething while we played. My older kid flipped out because there is no food downstairs. That was like a basic rule of life to him. When I said it's okay because his brother is a baby and I'm here, he took advantage of some shared snacks the kids had later. He would try to give his brother snacks that he liked so he could eat them downstairs too because his brother was. So I see him sitting in his play tent eating animal crackers and giving his brother one as they hide from me because he knows it's technically wrong. But he eventually saw the reason why I made the rule. because although the younger kid would eat 1 to 2, he would then mash the third into a paste and rub it over the toys. Playing carnival fair games is a waste of money. My son wanted to spend his $20 to win a Pikachu stuffed animal from his allowance that he saved up. We told him he would be wasting his money and he would not win. He spent $15 and won the biggest prize. To be fair, playing carnival fair games isn't a waste of money if you have the mindset that you are paying for the fun of the experience and not the prize. If you can't play a ring toss without developing a terrible gambling problem and losing your house, I don't know what to tell you. Dude, finally someone else gets it. It's not about the cost of the prize, it's the memory behind it. Similarly, if you gamble to win money, you're gonna have a bad time. If you instead view it as, I will spend $X at the casino as entertainment, it's a healthier idea. Told my 11-year-old who was being bullied on the school bus to stand up for himself if his bullies started hitting him again. Honestly son, the only way to be rid of bullies is to show them you aren't scared. If they hit you again, punch him back and kick his head in. Just stand up to them and you'll see. Few days later, police landed at the door asking for my son as he was involved in an assault. A kid on the bus had kicked him, so he turned and punched him to the floor and then took my words literally and started booting the kid in the head. Thankfully the kid was okay other than some scuffs and bruises, and my son doesn't get bullied anymore. I now watch which words I use to give him instruction, since he's taking them quite literally. Well, it kinda worked. Nothing bad happened, and the only long-term effect was your child was no longer bullied. My aunt and uncle were trying to teach my cousin manners and wanted him to address people as Mr. and Mrs. They used each other as examples and consequently were known as Mr. Ryan Uxilly for 2 months. One of the funniest moments of my life was hearing my uncle describe how in the middle of the night instead of dad he started hearing Mr. Ryan Uxilly. Cracks me up every time. My 4-year-old cousin was taught to introduce people at school. He would introduce his parents to people like, hello, I would like you to meet my friends, mommy and daddy. I'm kind of sad he grew out of that. Imagine him, 23, I'd like you to meet my friends, mommy and daddy. Up until my sister and her husband's first kid started talking they often called each other babe. They stopped when their 2-year-old daughter started trying to get their attention by saying hey babe. When my son was about 3 or 4 he started to ask about how babies are born. I sat him down and gave him a very simple, age-appropriate explanation. He just looked at me, shook his head, and just said no. Very calmly, but in a I can't believe you think that's how it works tone of voice, like I'd told him fake news. I was prepared for difficult questions and even prepared for the fact that he might ask me things that even I didn't know, but I was completely unprepared for him to just simply not believe me when I told him the truth. I just sat there not knowing what to do while he went back to playing Lego. No, Phil. Why would you lie to me like this? Did he grow up to be a flat earther? No, all signs are good so far. Saw a clip on local news about a toddler saving her mom's life by calling 911 when she collapsed. Figured it was a good idea to teach my toddler 911. Had 2 cops at my door 5 minutes later. My youngest niece did that the false call and the cops were cool about it. They stormed in thinking it was serious, much to mortification of my sister-in-law, but soon the truth came out that it was a toddler who called them. They sat her down and had a long talk with her, explaining to her that calling 911 should only be for an emergency, like when people are hurt. Once she seemed to understand, they gave her a sticker of a police badge and left. Her interpretation: call 911, get sticker. Read a book that suggested you ask your kid what an appropriate punishment for misbehaving would be and then carry it out. 6-year-old son pinched his brother or something, so we asked what an appropriate punishment would be. He said pluck out my eyeballs and throw me over a cliff. We didn't follow through and stopped reading parenting books. He called your bluff. He owns you now. You should followed through for his own good. But what if the kid lives and grows up to overthrow me? Then he proves to be stronger, and you should be proud that you helped the next generation be more powerful. But what if I want my kid to be thin-skinned and outraged by almost everything in life? For those who have troubles reading sarcasm. Not me but my wife, sat our daughter down when she was 4 and showed her the UNICEF Starving Children commercial. My wife's intention was to get our daughter to understand how much she should appreciate what she has. Now because we live in a small town that is upwards of 70-80% Caucasian, my daughter hadn't really encountered too many people in her life of different nationalities and creeds. So out shopping the following day in line at a local grocery store, my wife was in line behind a black gentleman. To which my daughter very loudly announces, "Mom, look. It's one of the people that live in the dirt." Thank goodness he had a sense of humor. My wife went about 50 shades of red and regretted her approach to being thankful for what you have. When I was about 2 years old, my family was at a game in Angels Stadium. My mother went to the restroom and left me and my siblings with my dad. While he was busy watching, I wandered off. When they eventually found me, I was halfway around the stadium. A crowd had gathered to watch as a police officer held me out at arm's length while I screamed, "Call the police. This man is not my daddy," over and over again. My parents had taught me stranger danger, but forgot to teach me what police look like. Grandma. Call the police. Sir, we are the police. I need an adult, I'm an adult. B tutorial, call the brute squad. I'm on the brute squad, you are the brute squad. My mother is a teacher and she once taught her class that if a bad guy is following you in a car, you should turn around and run back the way you came, because it will take longer for the car to turn around to catch up, and you have a better chance of escaping. A few days later, one of her students ran away from school, so she got in her car and drove around looking for him. You can see where this is going. She caught up and called out the window, "Name, you need to come back to school with me right now." He looked at her, gave a shit-eating grin, and ran back the way he'd come. She was cursing herself as she tried to turn the car around to follow. Okay, but that's some solid advice. I tried to teach my kids to be content within themselves and how to be alone. For success, they rarely ever go out 22 and 24. They are so mellow that they don't tell us when something goes wrong, since they were middle schoolers. Now, I don't think that was because of you teaching them how they can be alone and happy. Honestly, that has probably made things better for them. Lots of people don't go out because they are depressed, and some people go out because it's the only way they know to make themselves happy. Your kids are happy just sitting inside, scrolling on Reddit, and not hating themselves like I am.